I'm making a big change to what I'm doing. If you've been following along with me over the last couple weeks, I've been pretty consistently posting content on Instagram, TikTok, on YouTube, and all kinds of different platforms. I've been getting really into this idea of building a personal brand, sharing who you are, building an audience, and being able to help the person that you once were. And while I love this idea and it's a super big thing for people to be doing these days, there's been something off to me, if I'm really honest, about this idea for me personally of building a personal brand. For whatever reason, just the thought of building my personal brand doesn't really make sense to me as a believer. I know I've been called as a follower of Christ to make his name known and his name great and not my own. And so this idea of building a personal brand has always just had an interesting connotation to it. And so I've been creating all this content about marketing, getting on video, content creation, all kinds of different things. And while all that stuff is super applicable and it's great to know how to get on video, how to edit, how to post on social media, how to script, how to do all these different things, I know that I can't run away or turn from the fact that my first objective is to glorify God in everything I do. I know that God has created me to share about who he is and his love for people with everybody that I meet. I don't want to be so concerned with building my own brand and doing this and doing that. And so I'm making a big change of creating content and being the person that God's created me to be while really honoring him and pointing people back to him. Again, it's great to share with people the practical steps on how to do that. I know there's been this deep-seated thing in me that just struggles with this idea of building my personal brand. I think a good question for anyone who's a believer to ask about anything that they're doing is this thing drawing me nearer to God, or is it taking me away from following him? And while I wouldn't say that creating content or doing the things that I've been doing really heavily the last couple weeks are super pulling me away from God, I know it's been something where now I'm trying to squeeze my time with him in the ministry that I know I'm called to into my crazy schedule of creating YouTube videos, of making a video every day, of scripting, of learning, of doing all these different things that I'm doing rather than deriving inspiration from God and from my time with him. Something that I think is really important is developing a so that why statement. Why it is that you are doing what you're doing. I had created one of these and went through a couple rewrites of it, really figuring out how to teach people the concept of growing their personal brand genuinely to make an impact on people and to create a lifestyle that they love. There's been this phrase that's been so big to me that I can't run away from is I want people to say that Luke Relfs was a guy that heaven is more crowded because he lived, because he faithfully walked out the call that God had on his life. And so that's what I want to work into my so that why statement. I want to help creatives, entrepreneurs, and believers learn the practical steps to be able to share their story and the dream that God has given them so that heaven can be more crowded. Because at the end of the day, no one cares about the car that I drove, the house that I lived in, the accomplishments that I had, the things that I did. People just care about how you made them feel and how you impacted them. And ultimately, God cares about how did you steward and use the things that he's given you, the personality, the talents, the treasures, the time. How did you use those things to give back to him and serve people? The whole goal is bring value to serve people. I know that I'm best set to help the person that I once was. And you know who I was years ago? I was up and down on this roller coaster of faith. I was partying and in the world and doing dumb stuff with my friends, but showing up to church on Sunday, speaking and doing these things. It was this never-ending fight of one foot in the world and one foot out of it. I had made music for years, and even while I was touring, I was making poor decisions when I was back home and doing these different things. And eventually I felt God call me out of this career path and this direction that I was in of creating music. It was something that I love and still love to be a part of, but I know that God has called me to minister to people and to communicate his truth to people. One of the best compliments that I've gotten from people over the last couple years, friends of mine, or whoever else, is, man, I've never heard someone talk about God like that. Or I've heard sermons, or I've been to church and just felt like someone's trying to shove something down my throat, but I've never heard that question answered like that. Or I've never heard someone speak about Jesus like that. And I can never give any props to myself. It's just a gift from God to communicate his truth to people. Because when I really think about what I want to be known for and what I want people to say at the end of my life, it's what I said, that heaven is gonna be more crowded because I lived. And so my goal is to teach creatives, entrepreneurs, and believers how to develop the skills to make sure that heaven can be more crowded, to communicate effectively, to get in the word and derive our inspiration from God and who he says he is and what he sets us out to do. There was something so funny that happened not long ago. I just had this conversation with my wife as I was like, man, I'm learning all this stuff about personal branding and I'm doing this and doing that and all these things. And she just told me, go to your Instagram. And she had me scroll back, I think it was years at this point, to a video I made where I was just sharing what God put on my heart as I was reading the Bible one day. And I looked back at that and I've gotten great compliments from people who have seen some of my recent videos and just said, man, you speak with conviction, or it really seems like you believe what you're saying. I connect with what you're saying. It seems like you're sure of yourself and all these things. But when I watched myself on this video from years ago share God's truth as he had just told me, Luke, sit down and make a video about what I just showed you in the word and share it with others, there was this different energy that I brought, knowing that God was using me to speak to people. No longer do I want to get on camera, get on the internet and just say things and pass on things that I've learned. All that's great, but I just want to be a conduit, a vessel to share what God has put into my life and into my heart with other people. I know there's so many people out there, maybe you're one of them, and God's given me dreams and goals and a desire to please him and to help other people, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to create content. I'm scared of getting on camera. I'm scared of what other people will think. Fear is not from the Lord. Guilt and shame and confusion are not from the Lord. Just a couple days ago, I sat down with one of my pastors who God has grown his following to millions of subscribers on YouTube, to hundreds of thousands of followers on different social platforms. And he gave me this tidbit that said, typically the people that are genuinely called to ministry struggle with, man, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right things? I was asking him about the personal branding, but I feel like I'm supposed to be creating content and stuff that God is speaking to me and share that with other people. But then what's the practical aspect of it? And you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I should go. And he was like, Luke, you are someone that is made to share what God's put on your heart. For any of us as believers, that's the call for us anyway, but it looks different in all kinds of ways. And for me, I've struggled with that, man. Am I, when I was making music, am I making Christian music? Am I talking about God in all my songs? Am I not? Am I just a believer and I walk it out in my life and I don't make Christian music and all these different things? But I'm just done struggling with the idea of, if I fully turn over what I want to do, who I want to be, and what I want to see happen in my life to God, and just let him do the rest. Because again, I know that I'm going to die one day, and I'm not going to wish that I did more stuff that I wanted to do, or I saw more accomplishment and more achievement in these different areas. I'm going to wish that I used more time and more of my voice and more of the person that God had created me to be, to share with other people and to help them. And so that's my goal, is just to make heaven more crowded and to share this belief and desire with other people who have the same desire and maybe just don't know how to walk it out. And so there's a lot that I'm still figuring out, but I just had to do this update. Even as I started this series, I knew it would be an eye-catching thing, and I was only a couple weeks into it, but I'm switching it up already, of these full videos here on YouTube of, my journey of growing a six-figure personal brand. I just knew that would be something that people would find interesting. But when I really thought about it, I was like, is that what I care about? Is that what I want to be known for? Is that what I want to share with other people? What's the best thing that happens when that's what I pursue? Well, I make millions of dollars, get millions of followers. I teach all these other people how to do it. They go on to do it and they love their life and all this stuff, and everything's amazing. Like, cool, that sounds great and all, but that's not my true desire. God's put it in my heart to love other people and share his word with other people. And so there's a lot of different things that I want to be doing as far as this goes, but I'm going to be switching this idea of documenting my journey of building a six-figure personal brand to documenting my journey of walking out God's call for my life, or really living in the purpose that I know God has given to me. And that's what I want to impart to you, whoever is watching this, that You will never go wrong, and you will never be dissatisfied with truly doing what God has called you to do. And I want to be somebody that encourages other people to walk out the path and answer the call that God has on your life. So thank you so much for watching this video and following along on the journey. I'm going to continue to put these videos out, show practical handles as to the things I'm learning as far as mindset and editing, or just all the different things that go into being able to do this, because I want to truly help people with that. But at the same time, the base for me is going to be people that love Jesus and want to use the gifts that he's given them to glorify him, because that's the only thing that's going to matter at the end of the day. And so continue to follow along on the journey with me. I encourage you to document your journey as well, and just truly lean into the purpose that God has for your life, because you will never go wrong when you are truly following what God has you doing. And so thanks so much for watching this. If you want to follow along on the journey, hit subscribe. I'll be pushing out daily videos on my Instagram and TikTok as well. Just different things. I want to start a series here soon about answering hard questions about God or about faith. I know there's a lot of things that I've been asked, and so I'll be doing that as a series, reacting to some videos, just sharing what I'm reading in the Word. Basically, all my content from here on out will really be aimed towards that. And so if I'm speaking to you, then you know that you got to follow along and continue to hear and be encouraged by someone that's also really trying to walk out the purpose for their life that God has given them. You have a purpose, God has a plan for your life, and we just got to be faithful to walk it out until completion. So thanks so much for checking this out, and I'll see you all on the next one.